Hi there, I'm Jonny Smith from The Late Break Show.
And I'm Richard Porter from Sniff Petrol.
Or you might know us better as Smith and Sniff from a podcast, or maybe you don't care. What's most important is that we're here on this important piece of lawn.
That's right, this is the Cartier Style et Luxe, and it's basically a load of lovely cars gathered on a lawn. And as ever, there are sort of themed clusters of cars, which is why this beautiful Pagani Huayra is here as part of the Gullwing collection. But it's not all extremely exotic stuff. There's also some cars of the people down here, Mini, Beetle, Fiat 500 and so on. But let's start with the Gullwings, and because one of them is over there. It's called a Bricklin.
Now this is probably one of the rarest cars in the UK.
Well, apparently or at all. There are 3 of them in the UK. And apparently also, this one works the best and it actually drives and runs. Yep. It has, amongst other things, vacuum-powered gull-wing doors that apparently don't work so well. It was made by a man called Malcolm Bricklin, who's a car dealer in the US. They only built it for a couple of years, 1974 and 1975, so they are pretty rare. Bricklin's idea was to make a small, affordable sports car. There's a fiberglass body to make it cheap and repairable. Didn't quite work out, and it was cancelled very, very quickly indeed.
But it predates the DeLorean, which we'll come on to because there's one just behind the camera here. Over here we've got a car which you're probably a bit more familiar with. This is the Mercedes SLS, which has now been superseded by the AMG GT, which I kind of mourn the loss of the gull-wing doors because they did a hell of a job making those into production in a world now where we're very safety conscious and things like that. I think they're actually explosive, aren't they?
They are. One of the drawbacks of gull-wing doors is if the car goes on its roof, it's very hard to get out. Mercedes addressed this by putting explosive bolts in the top there. The car detects it's on its roof, and the doors then just fall off. The Bricklin, not so blessed, and also the windows don't open on it. So if you're trapped in there, you really are trapped. Now, it might be the windows don't open because Malcolm Bricklin was vehemently anti-smoking. Yeah. In fact, that was the first and only car of its time in the US that wasn't available with an ashtray. Yes. True fact.
Or a cigarette lighter. Bristol Fighter. Oh, your Fighter.
I like these. I'm just going to say it.
See, I'm a bit scared of them.
Why?
Well, because nearly all Bristols have got the proportions are the opposite to what most normal cars are.
I know, but it's sort of, I like it all the same. V10 engine, basically from a Dodge Viper, but a little bit tweaked up by Bristol. They're never quite clear how many of these they made. I think it's 9.
And they would never let journalists drive them when they were new.
I've driven one.
Have you?
Yeah, I drove one. It was all right.
Was it?
Yeah, it was quite nice.
We got banned. We were never allowed.
Well, I was banned and then retrospectively allowed by the new owner when the new guy came in. And yeah, it was okay.
Okay.
It was good.
I've driven a Viper and I know how fast they are in standard form. So Bristol Fighter. Over here, gorgeous car, probably needs no introduction. You'll see it on the side profile here. The Mercedes SL 300 SL. What absolutely gorgeous car. I've seen several of those on the Mille Miglia being driven extremely hard, but also the sill is so high to get in, I won't be able to touch that one because it's someone's pride and joy.
They have a thing as well, because it's so hard to get in, where there's a release for the steering wheel and it does that so that you get your legs in, otherwise it's almost impossible to get inside.
Hell of a car.
On the gull-wing theme also, of course, a DeLorean.
Yeah, I mean, it would be rude to have a gull-wing display and to omit the DMC-12. These cars are steeped in folklore, as so many of you will already know. I actually drove an automatic one quite recently that had been converted to Euro spec suspension. It drove better than I thought, but it's a Volvo/Renault V6 in the back. And it really is more in the back than in the middle, and I didn't realise this until I lifted it up. It's there, not there.
Developed by Lotus.
Yeah,
but,
so lots of Lotus.
A breakneck schedule, so it's sort of an Esprit underneath, but with the engine moved right to the back, because John DeLorean insisted you should be able to get some golf clubs behind the seats.
That's right. Made them just outside Belfast.
Yes.
And I know that they're flawed in so many ways, but that's what gives them character. Well, one thing that I'm intrigued to know is, if it wasn't for the Back to the Future film, would we still care about those? But imagine if the Bricklin had been in Back to the Future, Michael J. Fox was in one of those. People would actually know what the hell that thing is.
That's a fair point. Let's go down here and look at these cars of the people. But as we do,
oh my gosh, got to walk really slowly past it.
It's nice.
Look at it. The black paint's like glass. With the red interior, my favourite combo. Di Tommaso Pantera.
Di Tommaso Pantera. We looked at one of these the other day in the Bonhams auction,
yes.
but it was a late one and it was all sort of pumped full of steroids. And this is a very early one What a pretty car.
Oh,
you forget, but it's a very pretty car.
There's DNA of the car behind it. The Lancia Stratos, the front end is quite similar.
Sorry, I was looking over the
Not
top
the Renault
of the
4.
Stratos there.
No.
And what this is, as much as anything, is a celebration of 1970s panel gaps, isn't it? I mean, they're quite
it's
lovely
the
if
style
you need to get a
wedge.
cat in there.
In the middle here, we've got the stylish wedge collection. You've got the Stratos, which is a rally homologation special. Probably the prettiest rally car. Sort of, it's too exotic to rally almost.
Yes.
Then you've got the Di Tommaso Pantera. Then you've got the Countach over there without the wing, the early Countach. That's a hell of a car. A hell of a car. And of course, the submersible Lotus.
Yes.
Do you know what? Actually, I showed my kids their very first Bond film the other day because they've just come of an age. And I wasn't sure which one to show them, and I showed them the Spy Who Loved Me with a submersible one of these. My daughter said, that car looks amazing. I love it.
They do look amazing.
They do look
This
good.
is probably, if you're going to get into your Esprits, this is probably not the nicest Esprit to drive. It's certainly not the fastest, but for my money, it is by far the prettiest. Also, the interior on these ones, you'll see, is very much reminiscent of what would happen if you peeled Sir Jackie Stewart. It's wonderful. So, with wolf race wheels as well.
I was going to say 3 things that turn me on. Door handles that are the same as almost every other car of any type.
From the Marina.
From the Marina. Wolf race slot mags, they're just the coolest wheel. But also the font. The overlapping font. Lotus did some killer fonts, didn't they?
Yeah, and a lovely little reminder there of how many World Championships they won in Formula One, just which they used to put on their cars, because they used to be really good at Formula One. We're down here now, though, by the Cars of the People thing, and I mean, it just to show that this is not all really sort of glamorous, expensive stuff, because here, well, I say not expensive, these have become quite expensive, relatively speaking. Again, panel gaps are from a bygone age, a reminder of how things used to be. But these are fantastic, and rightly they've become sort of quite valuable now, haven't they?
Well, I like the fact that a desirable car doesn't have to be an expensive car.
No.
You know, the Fiat 500, where's the It's so small, I actually forgot where it's gone.
Oh,
yeah, it's one over there. You know, they're always seen now in collections next to Ferraris and Maseratis and all the sort of exotica. But what cars like this are great at is they're being stylish for being utilitarian.
I'll tell you something true about this car. When they were designing it in the 50s, they wanted it to be nicer than a 2CV, which would be its great rival. So it had to look nicer than a 2CV, but at the same time, it couldn't look as nice as the Dauphin, the Renault that would be larger and more expensive than it. So this is sort of consciously a nice but not too nice design. And it was hugely successful. One of the best-selling cars in the world.
Well, it feels more robust to drive than a 2CV, but this 2CV here being one of the early ones, because it's got a full cloth back and roof.
Yes.
Look. This is when, you know, the less steel, the better. I mean, Colin Chapman would have absolutely worshipped this. There's no metal in it at all.
Well, that's also the same thing with the Fiat 500. Put a canvas roof on it, canvas is cheaper than steel. Yeah. You can take the steel bit you've punched out and reuse it. So.
And that mobilised Italy. It didn't have to look that good. It was the true people's car. And behind Rich is actually one of the very last, I think it might be the last Beetle to be sold in the UK. It's still owned by VW UK, and I think it's only got delivery mileage on it. 1978, obviously a car that's quite...
My Beetle will only have delivery miles on it because I don't like them.
Because you wouldn't drive it. I love a Beetle. I think it's a wonderful...
I love these though. This is fabulous. I like this, particularly these early ones with the
this is early,
two
isn't
side
it?
windows and the sort of slotty ventilation.
And it's got optional legs in the back, which was a factory option at the time.
Yeah. So what else do we have? We're going to have to wrap this up. But over here, another theme. We have a load of lovely American 50s cars. Over there, some cars from Hispano Suiza, a company you might not have heard of. They're here because they're celebrating 110 years of making their cars in France.
Yes.
Because they're really Spanish, but then they started making cars in France.
Yes.
It's a little complicated.
And they made planes as well, but we can gloss over that.
But one of those cars over there at least has a straight 8 engine. So as you look at it, and you really should come and see it, 'cause it's a magnificent beast, imagine what it sounds like.
Straight 8's about from you.
Keep going. Keep going.
To me.
There. Boom, boom,
imagine
boom,
the
boom,
crankshaft.
Oh my lord. Idles at 100 RPM. Anyway, so there's so many treats here. We haven't even had time to walk around all of them.
60th anniversary of the E-Type. This is my favourite triangle of lawn.
That's the bit we forgot. That's how much there is to see and do here. If you're at Goodwood, come down to this lawn. It's a wonderful triangle of glories.
It is. And there's a lovely big tree there. It must be 300 years old. Must be.